So today I really want to talk to you guys about my 5-star reads, because basically my friends keep laughing at me because I'm really stingy with my 5 stars. So I thought today I would take a moment to go through my 5-star reads from 2023, maybe my 4.5s as well, just in case I need more data. And I will try to figure out what makes it a 5-star for me. So we can look at this like general statistics, so what kind of genre they fall into, when I read them as well, in case that affects anything. And if there are any trends, I'm also at the end of the video going to make some 5-star predictions. I'm going to make some anyway, but I'm hoping there are going to be trends so I can make some proper 5-star predictions that are actually based on something and not just my nonsense and vibes, which tends to be what my ratings are all about. These are the books that I gave 5 stars to in 2023. As you can hopefully see, I have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, Wandering Souls, What Lies in the Woods, Demon Glass and Spellbound, The No-Show, and Queen of Shadows. So immediately, this is all over the place. I don't really know what to say here, so let's dive a little bit deeper. What may be interesting to note is that almost all of these authors are ones that I have read from before, so only a couple of them are new to me. So Shannon Chakraborty is the author of the City of Brass series, and she's one of my all-time favourite authors, so I fully expected this one to be 5 stars. I went into it thinking it would be, and it was. Kate Alice Marshall has a really good track record for me. I've given most of her books 4 stars, some of them only 3.5, but by the time I got to What Lies in the Woods, I was expecting great things. So again, my expectations were really high and I went into it thinking it's going to be a really good read. Beth O'Leary wrote The No-Show. I've read quite a few books by her now, and her books have previously been really enjoyable. One of them made me cry prior to this, but I went into this one thinking I would like it, but I didn't think I would love it so much. So this was a bit of a surprise for me. And then the other authors who I am already familiar with are ones that I reread. So I reread Demon Glass and Spellbound and I really loved them. So there may be a nostalgia element in there because I read them years ago and I wanted to see if I would still enjoy them, and I definitely did. And then also Queen of Shadows, I've read from Sarah J Maas before, I've read this book before, and this was the point where I had caught up to the series. This is definitely the best book in the Throne of Glass series, and I went into this knowing that or thinking that. So again, my expectations were high. Gillian McAllister and Cecile Pinn were both new authors to me. I guess the trend there is that I am picking up authors that I already know that I enjoy. There doesn't seem to be any sort of trend in terms of genre. So 2 of these were fantasy, 2 were paranormal, 1 was contemporary, 2 were thriller, and 1 was historical. And in terms of the historical one, Wandering Souls, I do tend to really enjoy stories about generational fiction. So I think that's something that's happened here. Not that it's necessarily generational, but it does follow a young girl who becomes a woman, who becomes a refugee in the UK with her brothers, and it's sort of got like a family element there. And then it also talks a little bit about her parents and the rest of her family who were from Vietnam. So there could be something happening there. A lot of these books were actually set in the UK. So Wrong Place, Wrong Time is set in the UK. This author is a UK author. Wandering Souls is mostly set in the UK. Demon Glass is also set in the UK, but by an American author. And The No-Show, Beth O'Leary, is also from the UK. And I remember growing up that I didn't used to say that I liked UK books. I wanted to have an adventure and go somewhere else. Maybe I do actually like books that are set here. As you can see, most of these books are adult books, or as you may be able to tell. I only have 3 YA here, and all 3 of those YA books are rereads. So again, that kind of shows me that there's maybe a nostalgia element there for those books. Maybe if I picked them up nowadays, I wouldn't be as invested, but I do maintain they're all excellent 5-star reads, and I do think I would probably really enjoy them if I picked them up now. If YA had a similar vibe to these ones nowadays, then I would probably really enjoy picking up more YA, but I don't. There's a good mixture here between series and standalones. So again, not really something I can pick up a trend from. I read all but one of these physically, and I do think that has made a difference. Even though I haven't really read many ebooks or audiobooks this year or in 2023, I read Amina as an ebook and that was it. And I was going to read that as an ebook regardless. There was honestly no stopping me. And the rest were all physical. I think that does help my enjoyment for books because I keep getting into reading slumps, but to be honest, I've not really been reading many ebooks anyway, so I don't think that's necessarily affecting my rating. It's just I'm less likely to finish a book if I'm reading it as an ebook at the moment for some reason. A lot of these books were actually published in 2023, which is interesting. And that may partly be because I'm reading mostly new releases, but Amina, Wandering Souls, What Lies in the Woods, and The No-Show were all 2023 releases, I think. So that's really interesting. It shows that I'm enjoying more modern stuff, but then also older stuff as well. Demon Glass and Spellbound came out in 2011 and 2012. They're all traditionally published, and I did want to, in particular, look at the parent publisher for these to see if there were any trends there. And again, I don't think there are. So I have 2 books from HarperCollins, 1 from Penguin Random House, 1 from Macmillan, 2 from Disney, 1 from Hachette, and 1 from Bloomsbury. So again, all over the place. I'm not really sure what to pick out from that. So I think what I'm going to need to do is look at my 4.5-star reads and see what's going on there. I actually only have 3 of these, and as you can see, I have I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall, Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas, and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So again, a mixture of genres, thriller, fantasy and romance. No UK books, 2 YA and 1 adult. All 3 of them were actually from authors that I read before, so obviously read Kate Alice Marshall before, I've already spoken about that. I have read Sarah J Maas before, obviously. Abby Jimenez, I had just read Part of Your World before going into this one with really high expectations. I read all of them physically, and they're from a mixture of years as well. There's 2014, 2018 and 2023. All traditionally published, 1 from Penguin, 1 from Bloomsbury and 1 from Hachette. So we do have some repeat authors there. I'm going to have a look at sort of like the vibes of the books and what subject matters they are covering and try to pick something out there, because I don't think these statistics are particularly helpful. I don't think there are any sort of actual trends to my reading in terms of like genre and stuff, because I do read quite widely. The only thing I will say is that I'm clearly more interested in picking up authors that I've read from before and knowing that I will probably give those higher ratings. So if we have a quick look, we have I'm Still Alive, which is a survival story in the Canadian wilderness, and I don't think there's anything else here that's like a survival story necessarily. Wandering Souls is still very much about survival, because these kids came over to the UK in a boat as refugees and are now trying to seek asylum in the UK, and I would argue that that's kind of a survival situation where they are very reliant on one another, they're out to look after for one another, and they have a tragic past as well, in that their parents die quite early on in the book. That also happens to the main character in I Am Still Alive. Her dad gets killed very early on. So that could be something to look at, maybe, is like either survival stories, or in terms of like wilderness survival, or perhaps survival in terms of overcoming a very difficult situation and sticking together with friends or found family, or just, you know, relatives. So I'll make a note of that. We have Yours Truly, which may seem like the odd one out because it's the only romance book on here, but I would argue that it has a very similar shipping vibe to The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. Not that the ships themselves and the relationships between characters are similar, but that I became so invested in the characters and their relationships and the ship. The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi has a sort of snarky, kind of not hateful, but like argumentative to lovers romance. It's not even a romance by the end of the book, and that's something that I really enjoy, like the snark. With Yours Truly, again, there was some snarkiness there, but overall both of the main characters were absolutely lovely and really liked each other and looked out for one another. And I think that's what gets me, is that the characters look out for one another, protect each other in various different ways, and the guy in particular would do a lot for the woman, which is the same in The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. So I think there we've got the shipping element, and that also links in with Sarah J Maas, because Queen of Shadows, well, Air of Fire and Queen of Shadows is where my ship comes to life. They meet in the Air of Fire book, and then they are more together in Queen of Shadows. And again, the guy would do anything for the woman to try to protect her, look after her, anything she says, because she's clearly in charge, and clearly I really like that. There's also a little bit of a ship in Demon Glass and Spellbound, but I found I didn't love it as much as I did when I was younger, maybe because it's YA, but what I really liked from those books was, again, the snarkiness of the main character and her friends. I thought it was very entertaining. So I think that's what we're looking at there, is like snark, also ships, like intense ships where they will look after each other, do anything for one another. Really like that. Wandering Souls and Amina also set partly on boats, but I don't think that's really a trend. What Lies in the Woods is possibly a bit of an outlier. I can't really think of any similar trends other than it being from Kate Alice Marshall. As a standalone thriller, if I'm looking for 5-star thrillers, what I'm probably looking for is a tragic, mysterious past where the main character doesn't tell you everything immediately, and perhaps they don't know everything immediately either. They're going to discover it alongside you, and possibly coming back to a hometown. Maybe I would really like that. Wrong Place, Wrong Time is an easy one. That's got the time travel element, which I absolutely love. I don't think any of these other ones do have that. And also there's a mother-son relationship, which I absolutely adored. So again, this ties in with the whole family thing. You've got the main character struggling with her relationship with her dad in the I Am Still Alive. In The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, you've got the mother-daughter relationship this time, and also the found family with the whole crew, where she's getting the crew back together. Wandering Souls, all about family. Demon Glass and Spellbound, kind of, but not really. Air of Fire and Queen of Shadows, absolutely. Aylin is definitely like looking out for her, what she just considers to be her family. and new people are joining this family all the time. Yours truly also has really good family elements. The main guy has a dog, for one thing, and he's also got a lovely family who he can rely on. I haven't really spoken much about the no-show because the reason I loved this one so much was because it was heart-wrenching and emotional and somewhat twisty as well. I guess Wrong Place, Wrong Time was twisty. What Lies in the Woods, obviously, because it's a thriller. But the no-show was a different kind of twist. It was an emotional, gut-wrenching situation. So I think from that, I'm looking for something that makes me cry. Several on here have actually made me cry. Air of Fire and Queen of Shadows, cried over those. Yours truly made me cry. I think that's probably it, but I did get a bit emotional over Wrong Place, Wrong Time. So again, crying. I want some emotion in here. I do think that's probably all of the trends that I can really identify. It's really, for me, 5-star reads are just about vibes. That's why I have such a tough time trying to find them, because it very much depends on what the author is writing and how they are depicting these characters. I think what I have learned from this is maybe that I'm a very character-driven reader, and not just character-driven, but like ship and relationship-driven. If the main character is by herself or by themselves and they don't have good relationships around them or aren't seeking those kinds of relationships, then I'm probably going to be a bit bored. And I'm Still Alive does seem like an outlier to begin with because the main character is trying to survive on her own, but she is dealing with the loss of her father and being stuck in the wilderness, and also she has a dog. So I would count that as family. So I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to search through my shelves to try and find some stuff that kind of fits these themes. We're going to see how I do. I'm not really sure what I'm going to pick out yet, but I'm going to have a look. Okay, I'm back, and I have managed to identify some books on my shelves which I do think would potentially be 5 stars. Obviously, it's really hard to pick out books that I think will have a really epic ship unless other people have been talking about it, and I'm not sure any of these do apart from one. I'll give them a go and I will see. I've tried to pick out ones that sort of have that vibe. So where should we start? I'm going to start with the only historical fiction book that I have on this list, and I think this one is probably a front runner for like a proper 5-star read because I've heard really good things about it, and that is Pachinko. This one is a generational story which I always love. It's set initially in Korea in 1911, so it initially follows a 15-year-old girl, and she has to move from Korea to Japan and start a life there. And I'm not really sure how the generational stuff fits into it. I don't know if it's following like her entire life and then generations below her, or if it's going to skip generations or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard such good things about this book and I have really high hopes for it. I do think it's going to be a 5-star read. And again, I think this deals with the whole generational thing and also the family side of things as well. And also kind of survival. This main character is traveling from Korea to Japan and has to survive in a place where she has no friends or family and no home to live in. So I think this has a good chance of being a 5-star. Speaking of survival stories, I went ahead and picked up the Indifferent Stars Above. This is a non-fiction book about the Donner Party. I'm going to be honest, this one is one that I'm a little bit iffy about. I don't know if it will be a 5-star read. Not because of the subject matter. I think the subject matter is very intriguing to me. I think it's very interesting to hear about what families and different groups of people were doing on the Oregon Trail, and particularly the Donner Party. But because it's non-fiction, it's very much reliant on how, no matter how interesting I find the subject matter, the author writes it and gets his points and the story across. And the same can be said for any book really, but I think that's very much true for non-fiction, because I don't want it to be too dry and I don't want it to be super boring. I don't want it to be too factual in that I don't want it to be like fake news, fake facts, but I don't want it to just be like facts one after the other. But I'm fairly sure it's going to be the journey that the Donner Party went through from start to finish, and it's going to be telling that sort of story or journey as a story. So that's why I've put this one on here. It's a subject matter that I'm very interested in, and I might be doing a video on this book and a couple of others as well. So that won't be anytime soon, but it is hopefully coming. One that I did find that may have a really good ship, I've actually got a couple here, but this first one is Fireborn. So first of all, this has dragons in it, which I know it wasn't in my tropes, but I am very excited to read it, and I did enjoy Fourth Wing last year. Iron Flame, not so much, but I think this one has a lot of potential. It's YA, which obviously I'm not against, I just don't read too much. And it says here that Annie and Lee were only children when revolution changed their world, giving everyone a chance to test into the governing class of dragon riders. They're both rising stars. Annie is lowborn and Lee was born into a family of aristocrats, and then they grow up in an orphanage together. It says here that Lee must choose to kill the only family he has left or to betray everything he's come to believe in, and Annie must decide whether to protect her dearest friend or step up to be the champion her city needs. So I think this is going to be a really good found family story and also a really good ship. The last line of the synopsis does say, loyalty and love are tested in this gripping adventure that asks what matters most, the family you were born into or the one you've chosen. And just that line gives me goosebumps. Yeah, I've got really high hopes for this one. I hope it's good, and then I can marathon the entire trilogy. I have been told by some of my friends this one is really good. So again, high hopes. I think it's going to be very enjoyable. The other one I have identified as potentially having a ship, and that's literally just going by fan art that I've seen on Twitter, is the Phoenix King. I don't know what this one is about, but I've heard that it's very good from the few people who I've seen talking about it, and the author keeps posting fan art, what I think is the ship, at least I assume so. It says here that Elena is the heir to the throne, but then she doesn't anticipate the arrival of Yasen Knight, the notorious assassin who now claims fealty to the throne. As the threat of war looms like a storm on the horizon, the two begin a dangerous dance of intrigue and betrayal, and the choices they make could burn down the world. Does that not sound like my perfect OTP? And again, I haven't read the book, so I'm sorry if like Yasen is like a 60-year-old man, but that's not what this synopsis makes it sound like. So I think this is going to be a really good ship, and I'm actually getting a little bit excited to read it. So I think I'm gonna have to pick this one up very soon. I have such high hopes, and this is the first in a trilogy. So again, this could be a ship that I get really stuck into, and if I don't give this one 5 stars, maybe I'll give later books in the trilogy 5 stars, depending on how the ship progresses. Also based around themes of family and survival, I have The Pomegranate Gate. So this one is about a guy who dreams every night of a handsome orange-eyed stranger, and the Queen of Sepharad orders all the nation's Jews to leave or convert. So the main characters are forced to flee, but an unlucky encounter leaves them both separated from their caravan. Lost in the wilderness, Toba follows an orange-eyed stranger through a mysterious gate into Pomegranate Grove, leaving everyone else behind. So this has sort of elements of not time travel necessarily, but like portal fantasy. Also because the main characters are forced to flee and become potentially refugees if they can find somewhere else to go, then that also links in with the whole survival side of things, and also family. So I think this does have quite a few elements that I will probably enjoy. I've not heard much about this book. I've seen a couple of people talk about it, but it's definitely not super popular. Okay, apparently I need to hurry up because everything is running out of battery, including my freaking microphone. So I need to get a move on. I only have 4 more books to talk about. I was going to say 3 because I'd already spoken about one when everything ran out. But the next one is The Wolf of Oren Yarrow, and I think this one could tie in with like the snarkiness vibe or the bitch queen vibe, which Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows definitely has. This one is about a woman who basically led the war, and she was put into an arranged marriage, and then the guy that she was going to marry disappeared and kind of left her to it, I think. And then one day she receives a letter from him asking to meet, and she is like, yeah, I'm gonna go and find out what's going on. So she has to travel across the sea. Then she is sort of stranded there and has to survive, and I think she's going to go absolutely feral on whoever tries to attack her over there, and I'm sure she will have to fight her way through. So I think all of those elements sound really good to me, and again, I don't know if she is going to be super snarky, and I don't really know if there's going to be a ship at all, so this isn't like the ship section. This is more survival, badass woman fighting her way through everyone to kind of figure out what's going on and potentially to attack her betrothed. So that sounds really good to me. I'm really excited for this one. And then I also have Wolf Song by TJ Klune. I have read a book by this author before and very much enjoyed it, so I think I'm going to enjoy this one. This was originally self-published by him, and then Tor, I think, picked it up. This is going to fit into the found family side of things, which I have already said that I really enjoy. It says here that when Ox was 12, his father taught him a lesson. Ox wasn't worth anything and people would never understand him, and then he left. Ox was 16 when the energetic Bennett family moved in next door, harbouring a secret that would change him forever. For the family are shapeshifters who can transform into wolves at will. So I think this is going to be like a found family situation, which I absolutely love. It's the first in, I think, a quartet, maybe. I just have really good vibes from it. You may not know this, you probably don't, because I don't think I've ever said it out loud on my channel. Back in the day, when Fiction Press was a thing, I used to go on there and search specifically for werewolf fiction. I had a few on there that were updating fairly regularly. If you don't know what Fiction Press is, it's kind of like Archive of Our Own, but not for fan fiction. So people on there would post a chapter of their story each time, and sometimes you'd be waiting weeks for a new chapter, and when it finally came out, you'd devour it and then have to wait again for even longer, and then it all got shut down. And I used to go on there and look for shapeshifter books because I loved it, and I read so many when I was younger, like published fiction as well. So I think I'm gonna really like this for those reasons, but also for the found family side of things, and I think it's gonna be emotional and probably make me cry, so that's always good. That's obviously what I'm looking for. And then I also have The Last Watch, which again is following the same vibes as found family. This is about a crew who are at the edge of the universe and they have to try to save it. It says here that it's an epic tale of survival, which, like I said, I love. And again, because it's a crew on a spaceship, I think it's going to be like a found family situation where they all look after each other. I've heard really good things about this book, and the final line on the synopsis says she knows they are humanity's last chance, and that sounds really epic to me, and I love epic kind of battles and showdowns like that, where everything is relying on this one little crew or this one person. And yeah, I absolutely love it. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this one. And then finally, my last 5-star prediction is No Feck Gloss. This is again one that I've not heard much about, but I think I will enjoy it because it says here it's a story about survival. The main character's planet and family are destroyed, and his only hope is a crew of misfit aliens and a mysterious ship that seems to have a soul and a universe of its own. And this sounds amazing. So this sounds like it's found family vibes and survival a little bit as well. Obviously some space stuff going on here. It sounds a bit like Becky Chambers, who I have also given 5 stars, obviously not in 2023, so I haven't mentioned it in this video, but it does sound like it's got those vibes, and this is also the first in a trilogy. Not really heard much about it, but I do think I would really enjoy it. It's published by Orbit, and I'm surprised they're not promoting it more. It says that the author is a swordswoman and a sound designer for science fiction and fantasy films, with credits in movies such as Doctor Strange and Avengers, and this book is her debut novel. So I think, because, I don't know if I'm just making this up, because she is a sound designer, she's gonna kind of know how to get your emotions and to make you sort of ride that wave. At least that's what I'm envisioning. So again, I think this one might be one that could make me cry, because hopefully she's got some talent there in getting me hooked and then sort of taking me along on the journey. I think as a sound designer, you probably have to really understand that and how audio really affects people's emotions. And I know this is a book and it's written words, but you know what I mean. So those are all of my 5-star predictions and my kind of 5-star audit, where I'm not really sure I learnt anything, but if I give any of these books 5 stars at the end of the year, then obviously I will have learned something. So what I'm thinking about doing now is doing a couple of reading vlogs where I read these books and check back in with you guys, because I'm sure you're all dying for an update. So what I think I want you guys to do is to vote on which ones I should read, and then I will read them in order of what gets the most votes, and I will do little reading vlogs for each one. And some of them will get their own videos as well, because I'm planning on doing them for projects or reading them for projects. But yeah, just comment below, tell me which ones you think I'll enjoy the most, which ones you're more interested in learning about or hearing me talk about. I have a very strong feeling that at least some of these will be 5 stars, and because I'm going into them with those expectations, I'm thinking maybe I will really love them, so we will see. And with that, I am done. I'm going to go and charge all of my equipment now so that I can carry on recording. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below what your most recent 5-star read was, and if you were expecting it, that would be very interesting for me to know. If there are any trends as well that you normally gravitate towards and end up giving 5 stars, that's going to be a very interesting conversation, I think. So thank you for watching. I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye.